The crimson spires of the Valoran Imperial Palace pierced the purple sky as Princess Lyra descended the marble steps toward the docking bay. Her silver robes billowed behind her, adorned with the geometric patterns that marked her royal bloodline. The human delegation awaited her inspection, their primitive vessel gleaming awkwardly among the sleek curves of Valoran technology. Captain Jake Thompson stood at attention beside his battered cargo hauler, the Terra's Pride. The ship bore scorch, marks from countless meteor fields, and the welded patches that spoke of emergency repairs in the void between stars. Beside him, his small crew shuffled nervously under the scrutinizing gaze of Valoran guards whose energy weapons hummed with barely contained power. "So this is humanity's finest vessel," Princess Lyra said, her voice carrying the musical quality common to her species. Her four arms gestured dismissively at the human ship. "How quaint." Jake kept his expression neutral. The diplomatic mission to secure mining rights in Valoran space had taken 3 years to arrange. Earth desperately needed the rare elements found in this system, and antagonizing their hosts would doom billions back home. "Your Highness," Jake replied with a respectful bow. "The Terra's Pride has served us well across many star systems. We're grateful for this opportunity to demonstrate human capabilities." The princess circled the ship, her large violet eyes noting every imperfection. "Your species never ceases to amaze me with your confidence, despite such obvious limitations. Tell me, Captain, how many of your kind possess the neural complexity required to pilot advanced spacecraft?" "We train our pilots extensively, Your Highness. Each one masters multiple systems and emergency protocols." Lyra laughed, the sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Training can only compensate for so much biological inadequacy. Watch and learn what true piloting excellence looks like." She gestured toward a magnificent vessel that descended from the palace's upper towers. A ship resembled a crystalline flower, its translucent petals shifting through the spectrum as internal energies flowed through conduits visible beneath its surface. The craft settled onto the landing pad without so much as a whisper of displaced air. "The Quantum Blossom," the princess announced proudly. "A marvel of Valoran engineering that responds to thought itself. Only the most gifted minds of our species can interface with its neural matrices. Even among my people, perhaps 1 in 10,000 possesses the necessary intellectual capacity." The human crew exchanged glances. Jake had studied the technical specifications during their journey here. The ship's control systems relied on a psychic interface that required natural, telepathic abilities, something no human possessed. "Impressive craftsmanship, Your Highness," Jake acknowledged. "Though our species has developed different approaches to space travel." "Different approaches," the princess repeated with amusement. "How diplomatic. Your mechanical controls and crude computational systems are indeed different from true elegant design." She approached the Quantum Blossom and placed her hands on its surface. The ship responded immediately, its crystalline structure brightening as neural pathways aligned with her consciousness. "Observe humans. What separates advanced civilization from primitive tool users?" The princess closed her eyes in concentration. The ship rose smoothly, executing complex maneuvers that seemed to defy physics. It danced through the air like a living creature, spinning and diving with impossible grace before returning to its landing position. "Only geniuses could fly this ship," the princess declared, her tone dripping with condescension. "Your species simply lacks the mental evolution necessary for such achievements." Jake stepped forward. "Your Highness, would you permit me to attempt piloting your vessel?" The question brought stunned silence to the assembled Valorans. Several guards reached for their weapons before the princess raised a hand to stop them. "You cannot be serious, human. The neural feedback alone would likely render you unconscious. The complexity of the interface would overwhelm your limited cognitive architecture. Nevertheless, I request the opportunity to try. Princess Lyra studied him with newfound interest. Very well. When you fail, perhaps your species will finally understand its proper place in the galactic hierarchy. Jake approached the quantum blossom, while the princess stepped aside. The ship's surface felt warm under his palms, almost alive. He closed his eyes and reached out with his mind, not seeking the telepathic connection the Valorans required, but something else entirely. Humans had indeed evolved differently than the Valorans. Where they developed psychic abilities, humanity had developed something unique in the galaxy, the capacity for pure pattern recognition and intuitive problem-solving under pressure. Jake had spent 15 years navigating asteroid fields by feel, reading the subtle vibrations of his ship's hull, interpreting the minute changes in engine harmonics that warned of system failures. He felt the ship's quantum field fluctuations through his palms and recognized patterns within the chaos. The quantum blossom operated on principles of entangled particle manipulation, but those patterns followed complex rules that could be understood and predicted. The ship responded to his touch. Jake opened his eyes as the craft lifted into the air. He couldn't interface with its consciousness like a Valoran, but he could feel its quantum signature, anticipate its responses, and guide its movements through pure mechanical intuition. The quantum blossom soared upward, accelerating beyond what the princess had demonstrated. Jake pushed the vessel through increasingly complex maneuvers, threading between the palace spires at speeds that made the watching Valorans gasp. He barrel-rolled around communications towers, dove through narrow canyon passages carved into the mountainside, and executed precision formation flights with patrol craft that scrambled to keep up. When he finally brought the ship back to the landing pad, the silence stretched for long moments. Princess Lyra stared at him with an expression that cycled through disbelief, anger, and finally grudging respect. "How?" she whispered. "Humans don't think our way through problems the same way your people do," Jake explained. "We feel our way through them. Every pilot learns to become one with their ship, to sense what it needs before the computers register a problem. Your vessel speaks in quantum frequencies instead of engine vibrations, but patterns are patterns." The princess circled him slowly, her forearms clasped behind her back. "You flew the quantum blossom better than pilots who trained for decades to interface with such craft. Different doesn't mean inferior, Your Highness. It just means different." Princess Lyra was quiet for several minutes, processing implications that clearly challenged her worldview. Finally, she spoke. "Perhaps there is more to humanity than I initially assessed. The mining rights you seek are granted, Captain Thompson. I find myself curious to learn what other surprises your species might provide." Jake bowed deeply. "Thank you, Your Highness. I believe this marks the beginning of a beneficial partnership between our peoples." As the human crew prepared for departure, Princess Lyra watched thoughtfully. She had learned something profound that day about the nature of intelligence itself. Genius, she realized, came in forms her people had never imagined. Chat Control Sonnet 4.